Jean from Happy Indulgence, and today I'm going through my December wrap-up. December was a really great reading month for me because I managed to read 16 books. I knew I was going to be able to read a lot because I was on maternity leave, so it was a bit unusual compared to other reading months. Normally I read up to 10 books a month, and yeah, I was super excited with my progress during December. I did cheat a little though because half of those reads were graphic novels, which I'll go through in my wrap-up. So as always with my wrap-ups, I'm going to talk about the books I love the most to the books that I love the least, so let's just get started. So the first book was The Wicker King by Ancrum. Oh my gosh guys, this was so good. It was actually in my unexpected favorites video of 2018, which I'll link up above and down below. And it's basically about two boys called Jack and August who have a codependent relationship that's kind of damaging because they choose to rely more on each other rather than seeking out adults or rather than talking about the problems that they have. So Jack himself is someone who sees hallucinations and he sees a fantasy world overlapping his own. August, on the other hand, knows that there's something wrong, but he chooses to go along with Jack's delusions simply because he cares about him so much and he wants to be there for him. So the boys have a really intoxicating and damaging codependent relationship. I love the way it was portrayed in this book because there's a lot of mystery whether Jack's delusions are actually real, whether it's a mental disorder, whether there's something else happening, like a bit of magical realism or fantasy. And it was really fascinating to see as the book evolved. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars simply because I loved it so much. I love the boys, I love the relationship that they had, and I love the whole mystery aspect of it as well. And it was a super quick read and really unique as well. So yes, I gave this one 5 stars. Next one is a bit of a contentious one, and I'll tell you guys why. So this is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, the second book in the Grisha trilogy. So I actually reread Shadow and Bone after about 4 years, and then I went into Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising because I wanted to catch up with the Grisha trilogy before King of Scars came out. So as I was reading the trilogy, I had so many mixed thoughts and emotions. I love and hated each book for different reasons, but this was definitely my favourite out of the trilogy, and I kind of wish that the whole series followed along with this book. So I did record my thoughts and my feelings on the entire Grisha trilogy, which will be going up in the video later this month, and it basically answers whether you should read the Grisha trilogy if you haven't already, and what my full thoughts and emotions were. So Siege and Storm was my favourite book because we discover more about Nikolai. Nikolai is going to be in King of Scars, as you guys know, which will be coming out later this month. So we got to meet Nikolai and I loved him as a character. He's just cocky, charming, arrogant, hilarious, royal, and he's really ambitious and he just will do anything to get what he wants, but he is so charming as well, and there's a lot of great banter. So I really loved meeting him in this book and learning more about his background. I also loved hearing more about the Grisha orders and the magic and more of the world building and the politics around it, which Siege and Storm focused on. I still wasn't a big fan of the main character though, Alina. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. Next book I read is Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This was also a bit of an unexpected favourite for me because I got sent it because I'll be participating in the blog tour later this month where I will share my thoughts on my blog about what I loved about this book. But basically, in a nutshell, Emergency Contact is about two quirky characters. So you've got one who's an aspiring writer and she's just joined college, so she's just started college and she's trying to find her way, but she's an introvert, she's a bit snarky, she doesn't fit in really that well with anyone. And then you've got Sam, who works in a bakery. He lives just above the poverty line. Both of them are really soft, quirky individuals who connect with each other through text messaging. She basically becomes his emergency contact. So she catches him having an anxiety attack because of his ex-girlfriend leaving him. It's a really cute slice of life story where they get to know each other through text messaging, and then finally things evolve from there. I love the Korean American representation here because Penny is Korean American. She has a stifled relationship with her mum. There were just a lot of real life issues that were discussed in here that were really important, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next one is The Rift by Rachael Craw, and this is a New Zealand YA read. Rachael Craw is also the author of the Spark trilogy, which I really enjoyed. It's a sci-fi trilogy about DNA manipulation, and different people with different DNA react to each other. So The Rift was actually a really unexpected read as well, because it took quite a different turn. So basically it's set on an island, and then there's things like rift hounds who you are invisible and only people with the sight can see them. There's things like tribes who have magical powers and they're looking for their next heir to the tribe who has a magical power. It's just so hard to describe, but there were so many elements in here that was so fascinating and just melded together really well. And Rachael Craw's writing was just really intense and really enveloping, and I loved hearing about this island. It's just like a beautiful uninhabited island filled with animals, filled with tribes and magic, and it was just a wonderful experience. I ended up giving The Rift 4 stars. Next one is Undying by Amie Kaufman and Meagan, and this is actually the sequel to Unearthed. So it's the end of the duology. So if you guys haven't heard of Unearthed yet, it's basically described as Indiana Jones in space, and that's basically what it was. So it was about a scholar called Jules and a raider called Amelia who meet, and then they're basically trying to uncover the secrets of an alien tomb and uncover the artifacts in there. So Undying continues straight on from there. Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did with the first book, mainly because it was set on Earth and a lot of that great tomb raiding, puzzle solving action wasn't present here. So it did take a bit of a turn, but I did like reading the end of the duology and learning a bit more about the mysteries of the aliens that they had encountered. So that was interesting, and seeing how Earth responds to alien threats that are imminent. So that was interesting as well. There was less of a focus on the romance here for people who aren't big fans of romance. I kind of missed that though, because I really do like Amelia and Jules together and the banter that they shared. Like smart, sexy, witty banter. So I ended up giving Undying 3.5 stars, and there is a full review up on my blog as well. Next one is another sequel, and that is Wildcard by Marie Lu, which is the sequel to Warcross, which is a virtual reality gaming world set in Japan. Wildcard is a sequel. I think there was a lot more intrigue compared to Warcross, and it explained a bit more about the world, and there was a lot of double crossing when it came to Emika as well. Emika needs to get closer to Hideo again, and she needs to find out what's happening with him and his new scheme that she discovers. So Wildcard I actually liked more than Warcross, I think. Warcross was actually one of my most disappointing reads of 2017, and I'll link you guys to that video too. But I found like Wildcard also described the game that everyone's crazy about in this Tokyo world a lot less, and it did go into deeper character development. So you learn more about Hideo, about Zero, about Emika and her teammates, and there's a lot more to it I found compared to Warcross, and I liked it a lot more because there was also a lot less romance too compared to the first book. I still ended up giving it 3 stars though. It was good to read the end of the duology and see how everything played out, but it isn't a series that I would run to recommend to anyone pretty much. Next one is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book. You can see how much I tagged here because I thought it was a book that didn't date well. I thought there were so many YA tropes in here that I don't enjoy anymore. So you've got the plain Jane, who's a huge special snowflake. You've got the mysterious love interest who's constantly pushing his boundaries with her. You've got like a huge focus on beauty, and beauty being the be-all and the end-all for making characters respected. I mean, it was a fun read, but there were so many instances in here that made me roll my eyes. I still enjoyed it though and gave it 3 stars. Navigating the Stars. So I actually talked about this book a lot when I was reading it, and I'll link you guys to my weekly vlog where I did talk about it. But I found this to be quite a young YA read about a girl who's living on another planet, and what she does is she likes to hack into the quantum net and discover those Chinese terracotta warriors on different planets. I found like the sci-fi in here was kind of confusing. There's some things to do with Earth time and space time, and how when you're in space the time progresses a lot faster than it does on Earth. So when you get back to Earth, everyone you loved would have aged a lot more. So that was a bit confusing seeing in practice. And I thought there would be a lot more discovering of different planets, seeing as you've got these terracotta warriors everywhere and found on different planets. So it had a really interesting concept, but I just felt like it wasn't executed well. Mainly because of, one, how it was written. It was written a bit like in a diary format, but it still was in first person, which was a bit weird because it kind of took you out of the story. And two, because I felt like it focused more on the romance and about the main character discovering, you know, how to kiss a boy and rebelling against her parents. Didn't have too much of a story as well, and I was disappointed because it didn't really live up to the premise. I still gave this one 3 stars though. I do think younger sci-fi readers would enjoy this, and yeah, it just wasn't for me, unfortunately. Next one is Ruin and Rising, and I actually gave this one 2.5 stars. For those who follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, you'll know that I found this to be super disappointing. In fact, this is probably one of the worst YA endings of all time. You heard me, I'm putting it right up there next to Allegiant. I hated the ending to that series, and I hate the ending to the Grisha trilogy as well. And if you really want to know why, stay tuned for my Grisha trilogy series review, which will be going up at the end of the month. Oh my gosh, guys, I just can't look at this book anymore because the salt is so real. So I ended up giving this one 2.5 stars. Next one was Blue Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater, and I actually listened to the first 2 books on audiobook before transferring to the physical copy, only because it gets super confusing. But while I was reading Blue Lily Blue, I realized that nothing much had happened in this book. The most significant thing that pretty much happens is a cave woman appears, and they try and deal with what the cave woman is doing and is babbling about. Seriously, nothing much happens in this book, and when I got to the end, I was like, what the fuck just happened? It's so confusing, and I feel like Maggie Stiefvater isn't for everyone. Her writing is really enveloping and really poetic, but there's a lot of purple prose, and you just, as the reader, you just have no idea what she's talking about. I actually asked on Twitter to see who else felt the same way, because I feel like this series is so overhyped. I mean, the main thing going for it are the Raven Boys and the interesting characters, but the plot is so freaking confusing. Like, there's ley lines, there's psychics, there's people with powers, but I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you what happened in this book. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. I've got one more book left in the series, which is The Raven King, so I will probably continue it just for some closure, but oh my gosh, it was so confusing. I've got Saga Volume 5, Saga Volume 6, Volume 7, Volume 8, and Volume 9. So I've caught up with the Saga graphic novels, which I'm really excited about. Such a diverse and thrilling and relevant space read that's super quirky, and I love how it's about Alana and Marco, who are basically 2 soldiers from 2 different worlds having a child, and all the conflict and the people that come out to meet them, and oh my gosh, it's just such a really fascinating story, and I found it super relevant as well because I'm having a baby. The whole series is narrated by Alana and Marco's child, who is the baby. It just will give you so many emotions. If you are looking for a graphic novel to read and you love sci-fi, definitely pick up the Saga series. I gave all of these editions between 4 to 5 stars because I just love them so much, but I'm not going to describe each and every one of them because of spoilers, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well because it's just such a wonderfully written series that's quirky, that's hilarious, that hits you in the soul as well. So these are all the books that I read during the month of December. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.